It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome back to another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. Alan, I don't know how you feel about this week, but for me, it's already Thursday is the way that I would categorize. I feel like it's moving fast. How's it moving for you, and how's today going?
The week is going great, but the weather today I feel like was it's the worst. It was like straight out of Seattle. I was joking with Sheldon White, the Steelers player personnel guy. His son Cody, former Steeler, that plays in Seattle. I was like, "This? Did you bring this here? Is this your fault?" It's gross.
Cody had like a random big day a couple weeks ago. He had like 3 catches, like made one of those for like 40 plus yards, and then he had a fumble recovery on special teams. I can't remember what game that was, but I was like, hey, good for Cody White.
We only have like 80 yards to cross from the media room is in the indoor practice facility on the south side to get to the locker room on the south side. And generally, no matter how like miserable it is outside, I will just tough out the 80 yards because then I don't want to be carrying my coat around the locker room with me as I'm over there. And today I was like, I got to the door and I was like, no, turn around. Get the coat. It's gross out there.
Need the coat. Need the coat today. Alan, with it being a Thursday, that means the coordinators talked. We'll obviously get into some stuff from Art Smith there, but got to go through some injury updates as we always like to do here. Cory Trice, a full participant in his return to practice today, talked about his availability potentially even for Sunday. If not, we feel pretty good about a week from today, Thursday Night Football against the Browns. But what direction do you think he's trending? Do you think it's a very real possibility that we could see him even Sunday?
Yes, I think he's trying really hard to play Sunday. I felt like they really waited to get him going until they felt like he could really make an impact. So full participant today in his first practice, especially indoors on turf. I think that's a strong sign that they're feeling confident in his ability to do this. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm thinking right now that Cory Trice is gonna play. We'll see what happens.
I'll be honest, and I don't know that how much of a role they want him to have, and especially because they have 2 guys that they liked in Dante Jackson, got Cam Sutton back last week. But I look at some of the deficiencies that I saw pop up against Washington with those guys, especially in man-to-man situations, and I feel like Cory Trice could be the answer in some respect there, especially against Baltimore. What is your thought on that? And would they throw Cory Trice into the fire in that way and give him those types of reps?
I don't see Baltimore I don't know. I guess it depends on how you're going to play them. They played a lot of light box against Washington. I'm not sure you're going to be able to do that against Baltimore. Baltimore's going to bring, Ricard in. They're going to play 2 tight ends. They're going to run heavy. So I don't know. It's a different kind of opponent, even though the quarterback is the same.
Yeah.
You start playing a lot of man against Baltimore and you turn your back to Lamar Jackson too much, bad things are going to happen. And so I think it's probably a game where they can play. Also, these wide receivers aren't that good. They're just not. I mean, Zay Flowers is talented, and maybe you want to man him up specifically, and maybe that could be Cory Trice's role. But I don't really think across the board this is a group of wide receivers that scare you.
I mean, yeah, I agree, but also I think they're obviously better than what that group has been, I think, in past years.
Yes.
For sure. But when you look at the wide receiver rooms that they've had in past years, that's not saying a whole lot. But yeah, so obviously it'd be great to get Cory Trice back in the mix. And I was asking specifically about this week, but even down the line, just certain situations where if that continues, to me, the way that they looked on tape and man coverage, Dante Jackson, Cam Sutton, I think Cory Trice could be an answer to those deficiencies if those continue to happen. We talked a lot about, the helmet math potentially to get a bigger body like a Braden Fajoko on the game day roster against Baltimore. Some of that might answer itself because we got some DNPs that we want to talk about here and, get an idea if either of these guys could miss the game. MyCole Pruitt, who they've used a lot as like a third tight end, they like him. He's even played upwards of 50 snaps a couple of times, or 50% of the snaps a couple of times. CJ Henderson, who we haven't seen yet, but somebody actually just asked about DNP with a neck injury. So this late in the week, not great. And then the one that I was really curious about was Jaylen Warren, who was a DNP with a back issue. Again, when you're DNP late in the week, not a whole lot of clarity there, obviously, with what's going on with him. But obviously, just not great to see regardless.
Yeah, I saw Jaylen in the locker room, so it's not like he's, in traction or anything. But it's not good to be DNP on a Thursday with a back injury. We'll see where that goes from here. I don't really know if he's gonna be able to play or not. If not, I think you're looking at probably Aaron Shamklin, because Jonathan Ward's out of practice squad recalls, and so it's a little easier to do Shamklin. But either way, they got those two guys there. They've gotten through some time without Jaylen Warren. Man, what a frustrating year for him. First it was the knee, then it was the hamstring, or maybe it was the hamstring.
He's like the offensive side of Alex Highsmith.
Right? Both of those guys, man, have had a really frustrating year with injuries, and so we'll keep an eye on him. Pruitt, he had gotten a day off last week, so 1 week I wasn't really thinking much of it, or 1 day I wasn't really thinking much of it, but now 2 days in a row, DNP probably brings his availability for Sunday into question. We'll probably need a full practice on Friday. We'll see how that goes. And they have 3 other good tight ends, so it's not like it's a position of worry. You just got to figure out how the special teams reps flow from there and that kind of thing.
Yeah, are they a team that you think the Steelers would want to run a lot of 13 personnel against, or like how do you think in terms of that? Because that'd be the one area where I think that you would see him. But yeah, like you said, they have the bodies to figure that out.
Yeah, I don't know. They really look good with their extra offensive lineman package.
Yeah,
they ran that twice against the Commanders. Mason McCormick pulling. They ran the same play 2 times in a row, but they ran tackle over with an eligible tight end. So it was Broderick Jones lined up next to Dan Moore, Spencer Anderson as an eligible lined up next to Mason McCormick, between Mason McCormick and Darnell Washington. So that's a pretty formidable personnel grouping there. I'm interested to see if they maybe find a couple more things to do out of that. I'm also waiting for them to throw Spencer Anderson a pass. I want this not only because I like Spence and I think he is a good enough athlete to do it, but also like this is the kind of thing that Arthur Smith is famous for, where like you have some little package and then he's gonna like find a way to make it silly. And I think a pass to Spencer Anderson would be exactly
so that's
that.
who it is. That's who it is on the offensive line. If you think she's going to catch a touchdown pass this year, it's Spencer Anderson.
Well, he's lined up at tackle, but he's eligible, and he has Darnell Washington outside of him. So it's like no one should be expecting that guy to run a route.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. That'd be a fun little prop bet to make. Although you might just have to like place it every single week and then it not happen at the end of the year, and then you're just upset about it. But I said that Connor Hayward was going to throw a touchdown pass this year. That one's not looking great. But hey, any given Sunday, I guess, just needs to happen one time. Let's talk about the other side of things. Limited Lamar. We call Larry Limited Larry. I think we gotta start calling Lamar Limited Lamar, because it always seems like he's on the injury report quite a bit throughout the season, but like especially during Steelers week, he'll find his way on there, whether it's like with an illness or something going on. They said rest, but also with a knee. Has he popped up on their injury reports with a knee like throughout the season?
I don't know
specifically
about
the knee.
With the knee, but he's always on the injury report. I
yeah. I was wondering if the knee was something that had just randomly popped up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
He's going to play.
Sure. Yeah.
It seems like Kyle Hamilton is going to play too. Limited today, DNP Wednesday. But I would think probably needs a full tomorrow, but I think Kyle Hamilton's going to play. It seems like Art Millette is not going to play. Was in a walking boot after practice today.
He's like their Deshaun Elliott, huh? I feel like from a vocal standpoint.
It could be from a vocal standpoint, maybe. Yeah, I can
Oh,
see
yeah, that literally that's where the comparison ends. That's what I'm saying is the talking
Well, they're both
aspect.
defensive backs. I mean,
Yeah, sure. I feel like one is, of a place at a much higher level than the other. But sure. Um, All right, so let's talk about from Art Millette to Art Smith. Let's talk about Arthur Smith's media availability today, as always on Thursday, talking to the coordinators. I feel like we actually got a little bit something out of the day. It was an interesting conversation talking about him with his time with Russell Wilson that takes place, and him having to literally show Russell Wilson to his wife on FaceTime to prove that he's spending time with Russell Wilson. That was just a little funny, quirky part that came out today, Alan. But what all came of the conversation with Art Smith?
yeah, I mean, I think it's just a lot of appreciation for Russell Wilson doing the little things right. I think there's a lot of, I mean, we talked earlier about like just the way the quarterback position doesn't get developed right anymore, and guys don't really understand. Russell Wilson understands. I think you're seeing did you see the touchdown to Pat Freiermuth where they run Freiermuth in motion, Wilson sees that it's man, calls the check. Van Jefferson not having a great year, even for his standards, but is like the same kind of like son of a coach, very detailed oriented veteran player, makes like an absolutely perfect legal screen. And it's a walk-in touchdown with Frankie Luvu, who is a really good linebacker covering Pat Freiermuth. And it's like, I'm watching that play and I'm like, this doesn't happen last year. Like none of it, right? Like change of play at the line. You get the veteran out there making the right play. It just, and I think you're seeing the work ethic and the knowledge of a guy like Russell Wilson really show up in the Steelers results. The things he's doing are not like physically impressive. It's just mentally astute. There was one play in this game where there was like a late blitzer. And it was like, oh, right there, I'm hot. Throw it. And it was just, it's like exactly the way you draw it up. Like it's not on anybody's highlight reel, but like high level quarterback play does not always look like a highlight reel. Sometimes it's just taking what is being given to you efficiently and effectively. And I think you're seeing the payoff of the Russ and Arthur Smith relationship. And I think it's hilarious that Art has to FaceTime his wife and say, oh yeah, I'm here. I want to know, Russ kind of dodged the question, but I want to know if Sierra has also faced, like, oh, are you really with Art Smith over there?
Yeah. Or you have, because he gets, he takes the team to team dinner on Thursdays, always on his tab, by the way. Is she thinking he's doing it again and wants to make sure he's not spending all the money? I mean, they have quite a bit of cash to continue on regardless, but maybe, yeah.
Of course, Tuesday is at Children's Hospital. Russ's social calendar very full.
Yeah.
Tuesday is Children's Hospital. Thursday takes the whole team out to dinner, and apparently late into Friday night, game planning with Art Smith.
I've been around his assistant a couple times, and I don't know how, but I've never asked her like, hey, how does this go? Like, how does this machine continue to go without skipping a beat here? How do we make this lifestyle work? But hey, he does it. All power to him. And I think that's why I have such an appreciation for what he does on Tuesdays at the Children's Hospital, to be able to work that into his schedule. And it seems to mean a lot to him to do so. I want to ask you something about Russ. I said I had a question for you. I didn't want to tell you what it was beforehand because I wanted to bring it up on here. But while we're talking about Russ, I feel like I should ask you right now. This is not something that had really occurred to me before, but it just kind of popped in my mind because I was kind of going through here, looking at other quarterbacks. What would Russell Wilson have to accomplish in Pittsburgh let me ask you something else first, then we'll go to this. Do you feel like right now, if he were to be done, Russell Wilson is a Hall of Famer?
That's an interesting question. I think no, personally for me, but he's probably close.
Okay, so what would he have to accomplish in Pittsburgh to become a Hall of Famer was really the question that I wanted to get to. But if you felt like he already was, that would have kind of made the second part null and void.
Well, here's the thing. It's not like he's going to win any, there's a lot that he could do, right? But I don't think in Pittsburgh, he's going to go off on some kind of late career stats binge, right? Like it's not like he's going to throw for.
Yeah, he's not going to win an MVP or win Offensive Player of the Year. Yeah, he's not going to have like a 5,000-yard season.
4,000 more yards, right? And so like what could he do to get himself there? Sorry, I'm looking up Russell Wilson's Hall of Fame monitor score is 88.97. That's pretty
above Kurt Warner.
Good. I would say that everyone ahead of him. See, there's some real tough questions about quarterbacks of this era because Tom Brady is in, Aaron Rodgers is in, Drew Brees is in, Ben Roethlisberger's in, but you have guys like Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan, who I look at and I'm like, are they? Their scores are 106 for Ryan. And
when 90. I saw Matt Ryan's, I was like, what? Like, I know that he's got that real small stretch, right? From like 2014 to 2016 or 17, where he was just unbelievable stats wise. And he almost won a Super Bowl within that, but he got an MVP.
I'm not sure either of those guys was ever like top 5 in the league. Right? Like,
well, the year that Matt Ryan had with Shanahan in like 15, where they lost in the Super Bowl, or was that 16? Whatever year that was, I feel like that was like that's the year that I think of when I think of Matt Ryan.
Okay. Was Phil Rivers ever a top 5 quarterback? I don't think so.
Not in my mind. And I'm somebody that I feel like likes Philip Rivers quite a bit.
I don't think you can be a Hall of Famer without ever being a top 5 quarterback. It's one of my arguments against Russell Wilson. I don't think, and unless you have team success, right? Like if you're Eli Manning, 2 Super Bowls, beat the best team in NFL history in the Super Bowl, I think you get in. I think Eli will get in. I think so. If you want to know what I really think, Russell and Eli's behind Russ right now. I think win another Super Bowl. I think if Russ wins another Super Bowl, the number of quarterbacks that have won 2 Super Bowls as a starting quarterback and not gotten in, very small, if any. I'm not sure there is.
No, I feel like if they win a Super Bowl, it's a lock. I was more so curious, like, can he put up in your mind enough stats that would make it more of a convert, like get him over the hump?
He's the one guy, but he didn't even start the second one. He was hurt. I don't think it's stats. To me, it's just win another Super Bowl. If he wins another Super Bowl, is in. I don't really think there's a lot he can do unless he plays for a long time. And maybe this could segue to like, okay, all right, how Russ is about to turn 36. Okay.
Yeah.
Brady played until he was 41, right? No, 45.
No, yeah,
45. 45. He won his last Super Bowl when he was 44. All right, so let's say Russ has like 7 years in Pittsburgh. Let's say he's got 6 more. Plays until he's 42, which is not like as long as Brady. That's probably about as long as Drew Brees played. Like then I think you kind of get the Brees played until he's 41. Okay. Then I think you probably get into the stats start to pile up in a significant way where like they're going to start to put you over the top just in terms of sheer volume. Like not necessarily an impressiveness of the like numbers on a rate basis, but I mean, if you get over 70,000 yards, 65,000 yards, you're probably in no matter what. And so, like, he's got a long way to go there. But if he played for 6 more years, maybe he could do it.
6 more years is right in the middle of where he said he would like to play. He said 5 to 7 more years in an interview with Hannah Storm of ESPN that was uploaded. You can go and watch the full thing, obviously, but some things to take away from that. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know how long I thought he was going to play. That didn't necessarily occur to me, but when he said 5 to 7, I got to admit, I was a little bit like, "Ooh, are we think that that's gonna happen, Russ?" I mean, he takes great care of himself for sure, physically, and he before this calf injury was very healthy player, like wasn't missing time regularly or anything like that. But I mean, I feel like all credit to him in the way that he's played this year. Clearly, he's not the same player that he was in Seattle, and just kind of things that work against him. The type of quarterback that he is, the way that he plays, typically doesn't age well. So, like, it's only going to go down from here. I don't see 5 to 7 more years out of Russell Wilson. That would, a team that would keep him around that long at least. Like, he could try to hang on as long as he wants. I just don't think that there's a franchise that in 7 years would have Russell Wilson as their starting quarterback.
I hesitate to say things about typical and Russell Wilson because he very much breaks the mold in a lot of ways. Like there has never really been a quarterback like Russell Wilson before him in the NFL, unless you go like way back to the 60s. And then at that point, like it's not even a real comparison. Like quarterbacks, his size and mobility just did not exist before him. That if they did exist, they weren't any good. And so I don't know how he's going to age. I asked Tom Arth this before the season, the Steelers quarterbacks coach. Like, what do you look? You know, it's one thing if you have an aging quarterback, and let's say you have Aaron Rodgers, and you say, okay, Aaron, you were so much like whatever, whoever you want to compare him to, Joe Montana during your career. Here's what happened as Montana got older. Here's what worked for him. Here's how he changed his game to stay relevant. There is no real blueprint for how Russell Wilson should age because there's never been a 5'10" mobile passing quarterback before. Like either you were like Doug Flutie, but like he wasn't that kind of player. No. And so like I don't know how Russell Wilson's going to age. I don't know how extreme the drop-off might be when it comes. I don't really think anyone knows. I don't blame Russ for thinking that. I would bet against him playing for 6 or 7 more years. If you're the Steelers and Russ comes up to you and says, hey, man, I really like it here. I want to sign a contract extension. Here's my thing. I'm going to sign it like super cheap for you guys because I really like it here, but I want it to all be guaranteed. So I'm going to sign for $15 million a season, which is really cheap for a starting quarterback, but I want you to guarantee every penny of it. And you can decide how many years you want to give me. How many years you sign him up for at $15 million a season, fully guaranteed?
3.
Yeah, I'm like 3 or 4. That's probably where I'm.
Yeah, because I feel like even if it goes south, like it's obviously not going to be good to have to eat that, but that's like, it's manageable to eat. Like I feel like once you get beyond that, you're, yeah. I 4 I could probably be talked into. I feel good about 3.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I think that's if I'm the Steelers and I'm dealing with Russell Wilson after the season, I'm trying to sign a 3-year contract, and I might be talked into signing a 4-year contract.
So there's a lot of guys that are like we're in the 6-foot range. It is hard to find guys under that were successful. Yeah. 5'11", Sonny Jurgensen is in the Hall of Fame.
That's what I'm saying. You got to go back to the 60s. Like,
yeah, him and Len Dawson are the 2 shortest currently in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, all right. I can't really compare Len Dawson to Russell Wilson. Sorry.
And based off the Hall of Fame monitor that we're talking about.
By the way, did you know Len Dawson played for the Steelers?
Yes,
very briefly.
I mean, unfortunately, didn't have the ability to watch him play for the Steelers.
3 years, 3 years at the beginning of his career, and then went on to be a legend with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Something else that he mentioned in that interview with Hannah Storm, and I think that we kind of knew this anyway, but like he said, he didn't want to. He had to still be a little bit coy. He had to play his cards and everything, just for the purposes of, I guess, not wanting to reveal everything. But he said as soon as he hung up the phone with Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan, which was like a 2-hour conversation, he looked at Sierra and said, I know where we're going, which was, pretty cool to see. And again, you can go watch more of it and everything like that. But, I think it's interesting because he just talked about how like-minded he is with Mike Tomlin, the way that they view football and everything like that. And I feel like you're seeing that come out now with the relationship that's being built. And he talked about, the honest conversations that they've had, including Justin in that conversation as well, and just the appreciation for Mike Tomlin. So I don't know that you have anything to add there, but that was another part of this interview that when I was watching it, I took away.
I think Mike Tomlin is a real person. He is not fake. He's not like he lies to us, but he doesn't lie to his players. Yeah. He and even more than not lying, he'll tell uncomfortable truths. He will tell somebody, hey man, it's time. Like, you don't have it anymore. And I think people see the realness of him and respect it. And I especially think when guys get later in their career, like that's all they want. They don't want someone to like fire them up. They don't want someone to blow smoke up their rear end. They just want someone to be honest with them. And I think Mike Tomlin, man, I had a great conversation today with Jamal Agnew. Just went over to introduce myself, as I try to do with every new guy, and ask him what he thought so far, 4 days into Steelers. And he goes, well, I mean, the coolest thing is I come here from Detroit and Jacksonville, and I walk in the building to sign my contract, and there's 6 Lombardi trophies. So like that's a big, he's like, you don't understand how much that means to someone who's come from where I come from. He said, and then, to deal with Mike Tomlin and have someone who has been here for part of them, that is just as down to earth, that cares about every guy in his roster, like to have a personalized approach with them. And he's like, you can immediately tell when you get here why this organization has had so much success. Like, it's not at all a mystery to me why this, like, been here 4 days, I can already tell that this is a championship organization and why right away. And so I thought that was a pretty, like, guys just want, they crave that from their coaches. And I don't think they always get it. I think a lot of, especially guys that come up through the college ranks, man, like, college coaching is just rah and lies. Like, that's all it is. It's just used car sales. And I think there's a realness to Mike Tomlin that a lot of coaches don't have, an ability to connect with people.
I think you see that all the time too. Like you're saying, that Jamal Agnew, for that to be like his first impression, but anybody that steps foot in here and they just have it before they even have a conversation with Mike Tomlin, there's just like a reverence there for what he's done, what he's accomplished, and just the way that he comes off to everybody. So that's really good stuff. I want to get to a question. We have some other stuff that we want to talk about, but honestly, a lot of it can be carried over into tomorrow matchup stuff. So if we have to save that, we can save that, because Michael has been just throwing compliments our way individually on Twitter as of late. So we got to get to this question that you sent me from Michael, because I appreciate that. He asked me something today about Trice, and his response was like, thanks. Also, love the after. Like, literally anytime that he replies to me, he's got to mention that he's listens to the afternoon drive. So shout out to Michael. He said, Alan, who's next in line to own/run the Steelers when Art hangs it up, and love the afternoon drive. Kudos.
There you go. That is, by the way, if you are unaware, the way to get your comments or questions read on this show is to start with flattery. We are fine with you blowing smoke up our rear ends. Tell us how great we are, how good looking we are, funny, handsome, whatever you got. So this is an interesting question. The last time that Art was directly asked this question, I believe, was when they signed the stadium rights deal with Acrisure, and basically someone asked him a question along the lines of, hey, this is a long time, like, do you see yourself being here? And he kind of said, maybe not, was his answer. In terms of who it will be, I think that's very much still in question. Daniel, I don't know what he prefers to be called. Danny Rooney is in the organization. He was a college quarterback at Dartmouth, and is now back in the organization. I think he went out into the business world for a little bit, and now works in the business office for the Steelers, and also does a lot of things with, like, the Hall of Honor and a museum that's on the north side there attached to the stadium, and all kinds of other stuff. So he does a lot of stuff with the team. If there's a person with the name Rooney that will be the next owner, I think it will be Danny. But I don't know if it will be him. Thomas Tull is Pittsburgh native, film producer, and was a part owner of Acrisure, or maybe still is a part owner of Acrisure. He forged that connection. He owns a lot of the team. And so he's got a lot of money. I think he wants to own more of it. When Josh Harris bought the Washington Commanders, he had to sell his shares of the Steelers, and he sold those shares back, and Tull and Art Rooney split up those shares that were sold back. So Tull owns probably more than anybody else. And I think would probably have ambitions to own more. And Art's a lawyer, and I think a pretty good one, so I'm sure he has his ducks in a row. But I don't know how it will work in terms of an inheritance. You have to like split things up equally, and things were complicated when Art was when the ownership of the team was transferred from Art Sr. to Dan and then Art, and Dan and Art had to end up buying out a bunch of Dan's brothers from their shares to consolidate, because the NFL requires that one person owns a majority of the team. And so I don't know how that will go. There may be some maneuvering that is required there. So I would say I would bet heavily on one of those two people being the next primary owner of the team. But I don't get the sense that Art is really ready to hang him up yet either. Man, he's in better shape than I am. He's at practice every day. Super sharp. Like I don't get the sense that Art is closing in on his glory days or anything like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I didn't. This wouldn't even occur to me. Like, I feel like the conversation really hasn't been there. It hasn't been on my radar. So I don't know. Like, until it happens, I haven't really given it much thought. So, but certainly appreciate the question, Michael. We appreciate the compliments for sure. So, like Alan said, that's how you kind of get that's how you get your foot in the door in terms of, no, I'm just kidding. Ask a good question, we'll answer it on here. But I do want to give a couple shout outs, because we asked on yesterday's episode for people to tell us where they're listening from, if they're listening at work or whatever's going on. I highlighted a couple of those on YouTube. Christopher's out in East Tennessee, works for, I've always been curious, is this pronounced Cintas or Cintas?
I don't know, Cintas, I think.
Okay, well, there we go. Christopher's works for them. He's out there. Shout out to Christopher for putting us on at work. Ben said he works out in the wilderness. So I honestly want a little bit more clarification there from Ben Cohen, but listens to us every day. We got a student at Purdue, was actually there the same time as Cory Trice. So he's rooting hard for Cory Trice in his return. So shout outs there as well. Brendan works for Amazon as a driver, listens to the podcast. He's driving around, swears it's the fastest 30 minutes of my day. We need 1 hour episodes. Ooh. Yeah, I don't know about that. Sometimes we go more towards 40 minutes.
Every day on my way in and back from afternoon drive. It's right next to Permanis, is where Amazon is. So shout out the Amazon drivers. I see them all the time.
Love Amazon, especially this time of year. I order stuff for the Christmas mission that I do. It actually just started showing up today. So like we put stuff out on the front porch for them, because they got a lot of stuff that they're going to be bringing to the house from now until 2 weeks before Christmas. Jim said he works in a nasty machining shop, and we help him stay sane as possible. Well, you help us stay sane. Brandon says been listening to the show now for around a year. Love the work that you guys put in the conversation to be had. Sometimes feel like I'm just talking to a couple of friends. Yeah, somebody else just said feel like it's just two guys talking shop. It's kind of the vibe we want to give off, so we appreciate that.
It is. That's what it is.
There we go. So thank you guys for those. Of course, keep those types of things coming. We love knowing where you guys are from, what you're doing when you're listening to the podcast, the part of your day that we are helping you get through, and we appreciate that as well. So, Alan, until tomorrow, tell the people they can find you.
At @Saunders_PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. I just threw it out there.
Oh, yeah.
Name. Yeah, I was like, why not? I don't know if I'll actually post over there, but it's there.
I am already. I'm jumping right in.
If you want to do it. And I'm skeptical. I've been burned too many times. I'm now.
Yeah, the whole threads thing didn't work out, huh?
Yeah, no. Yeah. Fool me once.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with this.
I'll be honest though, the interface of it though, it's very like OG Twitter looking to me. That's what I like about it.
Okay. Also, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel, and go over to SteelersNow.com. Check out all the written work, dude. All kinds of good stuff over there. Aaron Becker has been a huge addition, and we'll keep teasing. We'll keep teasing. We'll keep teasing the conversation with Aaron.
Two more days, right? 2 more days until we're gonna have something new here on the YouTube channel, and you're gonna have to wait at least 1 more day to find out what that is, because we're just gonna keep teasing it. But yeah, big shout out to Aaron. I don't think people really realize, like, hey, 1 more person coming on board means a whole lot more content on the site. So be sure to check that out. Leave us a comments. Of
Generally
course,
means a very, very much happier me.
Yeah, I people that are watching or listening to this, well, for sure watching, maybe listening, we'll see, but for sure watching can tell that we've seen a happier Alan Saunders. There's a little bit more pep in your step on the episodes. Not that you're ever grumpy on here, but there's just been a smile.
Don't lie to people, Smitty. Don't lie. We both know.
Hit us in the comments with your thoughts on anything that we talked about today, a question for a future episode. And again, want to know where you guys are, what you're doing when you're listening to the show. We can't thank you enough for doing so and being part of this journey along with us. You can find me everywhere, Zachary Smith PGH. That includes that new app that Alan was talking about, Blue Sky. So be sure to, hit us up over there. Maybe I'll start posting clips from the show over there as well, just to see, hey, one more place maybe that could be a platform for us. TikTok as well, Steelers Afternoon Drive. And then if you're listening somewhere else, whether it's Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from, just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. Leave us a 5-star review, subscribe over there, all that good stuff. Until tomorrow, we got Steelers DB on a Friday, so we got that to look forward to. But until then, for Alan Saunders, for Zachary Smith, thanks for jumping in, taking another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.